Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. This is Victor Shi, and it is Thursday, March 23rd. Across the country, Republicans are launching a sustained and intentional attack on the rights of LGBTQ people. In fact, the ACLU has a very disturbing map that compiles all of the anti-LGBTQ bills that are happening across the country. And the number as of yesterday, when I checked, was 429. That's 429 bills that target LGBTQ rights, which is just jaw-dropping. They cover everything from weakening non-discrimination laws against LGBTQ people, making it harder for transgender people to access basic healthcare, targeting transgender students in the classrooms, and much more. And the most important thing to remember is that this is all happening on the state and local levels. So today we're going to be talking about how should we respond to the hate, homophobia, and bigotry incited by Republicans, and the importance that state legislatures have in this fight. And I'm so grateful to be joined by the perfect person today, the amazing and super talented Malcolm Kenyatta, who is a state representative in Pennsylvania's 181st District, chair of the Agenda PAC, and is running for Auditor General in Pennsylvania, which we'll talk about. Malcolm, it's so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
You stole my line, Victor, because I was going to say you're the incredibly talented and fantastic.
Stop it. Thank
Well,
you.
I mean it, and I just want to say to you briefly before we get into the meat of this, thank you for how you've used your platform to really inspire other people to get engaged and get involved, and so I'm excited to be with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I learned from people like you, so it's going to be a really exciting time to be able to talk to you today. But I want to talk about just the extent of the anti-LGBTQ plus bills across the country. I mentioned there were 449 as of yesterday, and the only thing I can think of is why and what it is. What is it about the LGBTQ community that Republicans are so afraid of that they have introduced more than 400 bills across the country so far?
I think it's a number of things, but I'll just start by making this point. When all a politician or political party can offer you is a list of who to hate, what to ban, and which people, which marginalized group to blame for all the problems in the world, that's in large part because they have no good ideas about how to actually address the things that are keeping people up at night, the things that are actually making life hard for our kids. For many folks in my generation and your generation, the thing that we're scared about is not drag queens reading story time books. We're scared about somebody walking into a building with a loaded gun and injuring or killing members of the school staff or students in the school. We're worried about a climate crisis that has gotten precipitously worse and has put us in a position where we're not even sure we're going to have a planet for our kids and for our grandkids. And I'll tell you, we're also worried about our economic security and whether that college degree is going to lead to a quality job, or whether you choose to go into a trade, if there are going to be good family sustaining jobs available, whether or not you're going to be able to join a union. And so the Republican Party has proven in so many regards that it is devoid of ideas. And in that vacuum, they have to flood the zone with something. And they've chosen bigotry, nonsense, and bile. And I will tell you, not just in regards to the Agenda PAC, but I'm also the co-chair of the LGBTQ Equality Caucus here in the Commonwealth. And we're moving in a market different direction. We're going to be introducing here in a couple of days the Fairness Act to enshrine non-discrimination into our state statutes. And we're going to keep just moving in a different direction than you're seeing other places around the country.
I mean, it's such a stark contrast, and I want to get into that later in the episode, but I think you hit the nail right on the head, which is, I mean, you have a majority of the country who believe that the right to marriage, and even more young people who believe in that. This seems like political suicide to me, because you have so much of the country that has now come to this issue and supports marriage equality. But I'm wondering, what do you think is their end goal here? I mean, it's kind of dark and depressing to think about, but what do you think they're trying to do, and what do you think their end goal is here?
I think ultimately their end goal is what it always is. It's power. And they believe the way to hold on to power or to gain power or to find, issues that they believe are wedge issues. But frankly, a majority of Americans are not where these folks are.
Yeah.
A majority of Americans don't think that adults should be in the business of legislating hate and bullying kids. I mean, think about what this really is at its core.
Yeah.
This is about bullying children. For the party that says they, care about protecting kids, their actions actually are leading to increases in suicide. And it's not Malcolm's, word. There's great research from Trevor Project and others who are great partners of mine who let us know what the mental health impacts are of not just these bills passing, but of young people in particular seeing these bills gain momentum, in steam. We say to our kids all the time, particularly when they're young, you can be whatever you want in the world. You're perfect as you are. All those perfunctory things that we say to young people. But then you have those same adults actively bullying children, going out of their way to further isolate them in their student communities, and frankly, to damage their health and safety. When you look at taking away the options for gender nonconforming, kids to identify as who they are, we know the mental health challenges that come with that. Or folks who are transitioning who need access to life-saving medical treatment. They're making that more difficult for people to gain access to. But we saw just in Pennsylvania with our governor, Josh Shapiro, who ran against one of the most homophobic, um, uh, anti-Semitic, bigoted people to ever run for governor of Pennsylvania. Ron DeSantis came up here, I believe, at least twice,
Yeah.
campaigning for him, and he said he wanted to make Pennsylvania the Florida of the North, and he came nowhere close. This is a bad idea for anybody who thinks they're going to win a general election, because maybe this works with a small segment of the Republican primary electorate, but this does not work with most Americans and Pennsylvanians who want us to be focused on things that are going to actually make their lives better, and not things that are going to isolate members of our community.
You're so right. And it just reminds me of this one poll I saw about, they're waging this war on wokeness and they're saying wokeness is going to destroy our country. But you have, the majority, over 60% of those ages between 18 and 24 saying that it's just a positive thing. It means to have basic empathy. You have 56% of people saying it's also a positive thing. So I think the majority of the country realizes that what Republicans are doing are such nonsense, which makes me want to ask you, you've been such an effective communicator in the Democratic Party. Do you feel like we should even kind of address the culture war issues? How should we be responding to things like wokeness and their attacks on LGBTQ plus rights? What is the way to go forward from the Democratic standpoint?
I don't think we have to chase them down the rabbit hole of nonsense. There are great folks who, in their states are pushing back. We saw what happened, at the federal level with Respect for Marriage Act, and what a special moment, and how important it is to have somebody in the White House who respects the humanity, the decency of every American. And so we have to deal with the legislation as that comes up. And I'm so happy that in Florida, for example, we have an Agenda PAC board member and a good friend of mine, Chevron Jones, who's there leading the charge with many others, Carlos in the State House, and many others who are pushing back against the vitriol that we're seeing come out of the DeSantis administration. But I will say, outside of that, a part of what we have to do is to put forward a vision for what we want the future of this country, to be. With Democrats in control, look what we were able to do. We're able to invest in our country's roads and bridges, something that everybody running for president promised to do, but Joe Biden and Democrats got it done. Look at what we did in terms of making it easier for people to get life-saving prescriptions, be it insulin or other drugs that are now going to be able to be negotiated by Medicare and Medicaid. That makes a big difference to the tunes of thousands of dollars for Americans every month in their pocket. Look at what Democrats are doing in terms of holding the line against Republican cuts to Social Security and Medicare, and this really bad idea to raise the retirement age so that people never have the ability to spend those golden years really taking in all that they did, spending time with their families and their grandkids. And so the Republican Party has really bad ideas, but I think that every community needs to be treated with dignity and respect. And I will say for individuals, particularly for young people who are watching your show every week, um, be who the hell you are.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
most powerful thing you can do is to not allow these people to take away your joy, to allow you to make you want to shrink yourself. I think that that's a big part of their strategy,
Yeah.
to make people terrified about speaking out, to make people fearful of living in their truth, living authentically. Because I say this all the time, Victor, bravery is contagious. And
Yeah.
when you step up and you're living authentically, it inspires other people to do the same. And that's why they're trying to disappear us, because they know that there's some kid right now who is terrified about the feelings they're having, feeling different and not knowing
Yeah.
what that is and how to verbalize it, and who's waiting to know that it's okay for me to be who I am. And not only does it get better, but I can actually thrive right now, and I can thrive into the future.
And that's part of why you are so inspiring, because you are a great model for that. And speaking of that, you are now running for Auditor General in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Talk about what that position would entail and why you chose to run.
So, running for Auditor General is really about extending what my entire reason for running for office was. It was about how do we make government work for working people and working families. I've had the real privilege of traveling around this state, frankly, nonstop for half a decade now, talking to people from Philly to Armstrong County to Altoona to Scranton to Pittsburgh to Erie and everywhere in between. And what I hear from everybody is they want government to work. They want their tax dollars to be used in a way that actually makes their lives better, and not just about further assisting folks who are well off and well connected. The Auditor General's office is all about keeping Pennsylvanians from getting screwed, making
Yeah.
sure our tax dollars are being used legally, but also are being used effectively. We have the ability in the auditor's office to do these what's called performance audits, where we can look at the ways in which programs are actually working or delivering. Take, for example, TANF. This is a temporary assistance for needy families. These are the big block grants that come from the federal government to help folks living in poverty, people struggling. Every state really has the ability to do what they want with those dollars in certain broad parameters. And here in Pennsylvania, we have a real problem. That right now, some of those dollars are going to crisis pregnancy centers, these sham centers where, folks who are, pregnant and are thinking about whether or not they want to continue that pregnancy are supposed to go hear about their options and their choices. And instead, they're flooded with right-wing propaganda, anti-abortion lies, and this is being done with taxpayer dollars. We need
Wow.
to stop that. We can, pull the cover back and say, how are you using these dollars? And I laid out a really 3-point plan of what we need to do. The current auditor got rid of auditing school districts and the hundreds of millions of dollars we send to our schools every year, which is insane to just think about. We need to bring back the school audits bureau. The second thing we need to do is use this office to really stand up for working people and working families, go after wage theft, wage splitting, and actually taxpayer dollars that are used for union busting. It's not going to happen on my watch. And then the final piece is using this office to really buttress the best ideas around public safety and around healthy communities, from long-term care to our hospitals, to how we're dealing with gun violence. We know a lot of the problems anecdotally, but we need to actually back it up with empirical evidence and data. And we're going to use this office to do just that.
That's incredible. And that just shows why down ballot races are so important, because these things affect all of Pennsylvanians' lives and, frankly, all of our lives. So, is there any way that our audience can get involved? Is there a website, any volunteer opportunities that you have for people
Absolutely.
out of the country or in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, absolutely. I would tell people, first of all, to just go to malcolmkenyatta.com anywhere. Follow me at Malcolm Kenyatta on all the things. And also would encourage folks to go to kenyattafilm.com. There's a documentary about our Senate race that Al Roker from the Today Show produced. It just premiered in London on Saturday,
Ooh,
to two sold out audiences, standing
wow.
ovations all around. And we're actually going to be in Los Angeles this weekend for the U.S. premiere at Outfest Fusion at their festival. And so we're excited about this because a lot of people said that they've left, with a seminal feeling of hope and feeling
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah.
And that's what we need in this moment. We
Yeah.
cannot allow the deluge of nonsense and noise to keep us from feeling good in our skin, but
Yeah.
also feeling good in our communities. One of the most powerful things you can do when people are pushing hatred and bigotry and nonsense is to put a smile on your face, to tell the people you
Yeah.
love that you love
Yeah.
them, and to live authentically and brave.
Like you said, hope and joy are the things that we can still hold on to despite everything that they're doing. And Malcolm Kenyatta, thank you so much for everything you are doing. And I wish you the best of luck as you're running for Auditor General. I know you would make a great Auditor General. And I'm grateful for your voice.
I'm looking forward to it being on the ballot with my friend Joe Biden. So that'll be pretty
Yes.
good.
Oh, 2024 can't come soon enough. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you, Victor.
Representative.
Take
Thank you.
care.
You too. Well, Representative Kenyatta is truly amazing. I think all of you, I've been telling you all, he is a rising star in the Democratic Party. He is a star already, but he is. I think this is just the beginning for Representative Kenyatta. Just such an amazing voice, such an effective voice, such just kind of showing why these down ballot races matter. He's an effective representative in Pennsylvania. I know he will make an effective Auditor General, and hopefully for all of us, it's just yet another reminder for why we really need to turn out to vote in 2024, especially for these down ballot races. We saw what's happening right now in states across the country. I mentioned it's in these state legislatures and these local municipalities that you're seeing over 400 bills that target the LGBTQ plus community. So it's just horrifying, but we can change things. We have the power to change things, but it requires us to first register to vote and then show up to vote in 2020. So let Representative Kenyatta be a very clear example of why those races matter so much. Just a few things before I let you go today. There's been a lot of news since the last time I talked to you. First of all, this morning, the Manhattan grand jury said that they will not be meeting to discuss the Trump hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. So, whether or not it happens today, whether or not there's an indictment, probably not today because they won't be talking about it. But it might come tomorrow, might come next week. Who knows? But this is another turn of events, and hopefully accountability is coming very soon. But this is an interesting turn of events. I'm still optimistic. I think all of us should be still. The facts, I think, are really on against Donald Trump. But they, at least for today, they will not be meeting to discuss that case. They might be bringing some more witnesses. The rumor is they might be bringing back Michael Cohen to serve as a rebuttal witness. We just don't know yet. But speaking of that office, this morning, right before I came on the show, District Attorney Alvin Bragg responded to House Republicans and said that what they're trying to do. So basically, a bunch of Republicans, including Jim Jordan, sent a letter to Alvin Bragg saying, we want you to come and testify. Alvin Bragg this morning said that basically what they're trying to do is, quote, an unprecedented inquiry into a pending local investigation, that it comes after, quote, Trump created a false expectation that he would be arrested the next day, end quote. So, he's clapping back at Republicans. This is honestly, to me, it's I shouldn't be surprised, but it is just kind of shocking that we have basically a bunch of really clueless and dangerous people serving in office. You have basically now a moment in which the district attorney of Manhattan, which is a local entity, has now responded to the former president because he incited violence and he basically intimidated the office and threatened the office. And he's now responding to House Republicans because they sent a letter demanding that he testify, even though they have no jurisdiction or authority to do so. You have a bunch of basically people who have no idea how the separation of powers really works. And it's embarrassing. I think we should all be paying attention to basically we're being run by people who have no idea how our Constitution, how our government works. And honestly, it's really concerning. So that we'll be watching that very closely in these next couple of days. And one other thing that I want to talk about is this really interesting thing. So I mentioned that the other day, I think it was on yesterday, I said that Trump basically, or a judge basically ruled that Jack Smith has enough evidence to compel Trump's lawyer, Evan Corcoran, to testify. Basically, a couple of hours later, that got challenged. And yesterday, the appeals court, in this really, really fast motion, rejected the Trump team's attempt to block that judge from turning over documents to special counsel Jack Smith. So basically what that means is that Jack Smith can now move forward and compel Evan Corcoran to testify. And it was a pretty remarkable decision and pretty fast. So, I think Jack Smith is rolling at full steam ahead. And for all of us, I think that's good news. There are multiple fronts of investigations right now into Donald Trump, and they all seem to be moving at a really fast pace. Hopefully, Fani Willis, that word eminently, will ring true very soon. But if not, I think there are other investigations that can really hold Trump accountable. So we'll all be tuning into that. And yesterday, there was just one kind of special moment at the White House. They celebrated Women's History Month just because we're in March. I know every month should be Women's History Month, but especially this month. Happy Women's History Month. Women have done so much for our country, and amplifying their voices and elevating their voices is so important, especially now when Republicans are trying to make it harder for women to basically live. So thank you, every single woman out there, for all that you do for making our country work. It wouldn't be possible without you. And thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of On the Move. I hope you enjoyed it with Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. He is a great senator, great representative from the great state of Pennsylvania. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And hopefully you like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be doing a weekly roundup of the news, answering your questions. Let me know if you have any questions for me, and I will get to them. And just a programming note for next week. We'll be back next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll be in the chair. But it's some exciting news. Unfortunately, because I'm on spring break now, so I just got done with finals yesterday. Next Thursday, there will be a special guest host. I'll maybe tell you tomorrow, but you'll have to find out and watch tomorrow. There'll be a special guest host next Thursday, and then another special guest host next Friday when I'm gone. I been going at this for a little bit and just need a couple of days for spring break, but I'll be back next week. Also, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and next Thursday and Friday, there will be two special guest hosts who you do not want to miss. But I will be back tomorrow right here on at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. You don't want to miss that. I will see you all tomorrow. And thank you so much again for watching. Have a great week.